Hello, welcome to my Visual Studio unit testing video tutorial. My name is Matthew Feingold. This video will be covering Visual Studio 2017's unit testing toolset and the live unit testing feature set that was added in the 2017 edition. So in order to start, I'm going to create a demo project here in C#, just a new console app project. Here we go. And in here, I'm going to create a new class, and I'm going to call this class player. This is just the a basic setup I'm going to use in order to run our unit tests against some code. So this player is going to have an energy variable here. And I'm going to make a constructor here that takes in some energy variable, and I'm going to set the player's energy to the variable. Let's make sure everything can be referenced here. Okay, so now I have to make a function for us to do a more interesting test on. So I'm going to test whether or not the player can jump. And so my rules for this are if the player has at least 3 energy, then the player can jump. So this is going to be a bool return type, can jump. And we are going to check if this dot energy is greater than or equal to 3, return true. Oops. Else we're going to return false. Simple enough. So now we have our basic demo project with our class set up here. Everything's looking good. So now to create our unit test for this project, we can add a new item. We can add a new item. And we are going, we want to right click on the solution and add a new project. That's what I was looking for. Now we can go to Test under Visual C# and create this unit test project. And I'm going to stick with the naming convention of the project I'm testing and then tests. You can use whatever naming convention you'd like. I just decided this for this demo. So here we see the kind of auto-generated unit test file that this project creates. Kind of to show this off, if this isn't here, you want to make another one, you can right click on your test project, add new item, and you can add a basic unit test. There are a few other options, but I'm going to just stick with the basic unit test for now. And this unit test is going to be testing our player class. So I'm going to call this player tests.cs. And here we can see that we are under the test namespace. Our class is player tests, like we named, and we have this auto-generated test method. These properties here that you see are for the Visual Studio unit testing framework to know that this class is a class that houses test methods, and these are all of the test methods. So before every method that you want to run as a unit test, you just include this test method property here, and every class that contains unit tests, you include the test class here. Now, in order to make sure everything checks out okay and is linked up between our two projects, I'm going to right click on our tests project and add a reference to our demo project just to make sure everything works okay. And I'm also going to add here a using demo project so we can go ahead and just use our player class here. So anyway, in our method, we want to test the can jump method. So I'm going to call this test can jump, and in this test I'm going to test a condition where the player does have enough energy to jump. So I'm going to say can jump returns true. So in this function I'm going to create a new player. So I'm going to call him Bill equals new player. And in order for our player to be able to jump, remember they have to have at least 3 energy. So I'm going to give Bill 5 energy just so I know he'll be able to jump. So now I will save the result of our function in this result variable, and I'm going to see if Bill can jump. This should return true. So basically what we want to do here is use the assert class to do our checks to see if our test passed. So assert gives us all these different functions here to use. The simplest one for us would be to check is true, because we want result to be true. But there are other ones. There's is false. Maybe a less simple way to do our test would be to use the r equal, and this one takes the expected and the actual result. So we could type in r equal and then type in true for expected and then result for our actual. But I'm going to just use is true here and put in result. Now this test is completed, and in order to run this, I can just right click in the test body here and I can say run tests. Go. And when I do that, if this wasn't already open, this test explorer, this should open up, and we'll see the past tests here. Can jump returns true. It passes. We can see some output in the output window here, and it shows the elapsed time. We can do all sorts of different things for this. If we go to player, we can see the one reference here, and it says 1 out of 1 passing. And if we click on this, we can show the test that that uses this function to cover it. So let's show this test with a mistake. Let's pretend we're refactoring this code, and oops, we set this to return false every time. So now what we can do is we can jump back over to this test, and we can either right click in here and say run tests again, or we can say run all from here, or we can have various options here for different ways to run our tests. So I'm just going to say run all, and we can show, uh-oh, we have a failed test here. If we go back to our function, 0 out of 1 passing, and it shows the one that fails. So what can we do here? Well, something cool that I like is we can say debug selected tests, or if we right click in here we can say debug test. Anyway, I'm going to do it this way. If we run debug tests, it will run our tests and break at the error here, at the assert. So it says assert is true, failed. So result is false. So now we know, oh, result is false. So if we had a more complicated test, this is a bit obvious. The only way for this to go wrong is if result is false. But if this were a more complicated test, we can just debug a particular test or a particular series of tests or all tests and kind of figure out where we went wrong here. So I'm going to now go into the live unit testing features. This is pretty easy to kind of get going, but it's pretty cool when you see it. So if I right click on my demo project, you can do this. You can turn on the live unit testing at multiple levels here. You can do it at the project level. You could do it at individual function level. I'm going to do this at the project level. You right click and you go to live tests, and you can say include, exclude, exclude all but this. I believe if you right click in the test body, you can go to live test and include the particular test that you want, or exclude it. You can right click here in the test explorer and oh, I guess it doesn't give you the option here, but anyway, but yeah, there are multiple ways to do this, so I'm just going to include everything for the live unit testing. So include, and when you say include, it should auto start this unit testing. Here we go, we can see in the output window. So right now you'll notice I'm not running the program, and it's telling me that this function or this test is failing. And if I go to the actual code in my demo project here, it's showing me what functions are failing tests. So because our test here actually uses this constructor and this test is failing, it's showing that our constructor is failing this test as well. So what live unit testing does is it allows us to make changes to our code and check against the unit tests in real time without having to rebuild and run our solution. So if I fix this back to true, where we know it'll pass, we can see a little clock appeared there to show is processing. If I change this back to false, here's a little clock. It doesn't take very long, and it basically processes every time you make a change, no matter what the change. The little clock comes up. And so if I set this back to true, boom, everything should pass. There we go. Covered by the test. And you can do this for multiple tests. So let's say I wanted to make another test, and in order to do this, I'm going to take the opportunity making another test to show kind of a shortcut to Autogenerate test. So I'm going to make another variable here, and I'm going to say health, and I'm just going to have a function that's another public bool, and it's going to be called isHealthy, and I'm going to say if this dot health is greater than or equal to 5, return true. I know these are super simple, but the point of this video is the unit testing. Otherwise, we're going to return false. Okay, so now we don't have a unit test for this. We can see the little dash here says it's covered by 0 tests. So, oh, and I'm going to actually create another constructor. I'm going to change my constructors to deal with our new health. I'm going to also give a new one, public player int in energy, int in health, and we're going to say energy equals in energy and health equals in health. Okay, there we go. No problem. This one isn't being used in any of our tests. This one isn't being used in any of our tests. And actually, we can see that this particular case is not being tested. So, just really quick, what I wanted to do is make another one of these tests here. So it's going to need the test method decorator there, public void can jump, and we're going to expect returns false this time. And so we're going to make our player Bill again, but this time Bill is only going to have 2 energy. And we're going to query if Bill can jump, and this should return false. And we're going to assert is false, and we're going to pass in result there. Okay, so this is live testing. All of the code that is covered by this test is passing. We can see here in this test, and then also here we can see that now this little dash that was here is a green check because this particular case in our possible code paths are being covered. So now to show the quick shortcut, and this is probably the last thing I'll show in this video because it's starting to get kind of long, I will auto-generate a test for this function. So I'm going to right-click in here somewhere, anywhere in this function, and I'm going to say create unit tests. And it's going to bring up this kind of like dialog box for me to select some options here. So our test framework, we're going to use the newest one, MS Test v2. Our test project that this test is going to be included in is in fact our demo project test. It knows that. Our name format is going to kind of be stuck to this default here. Our namespace that we're using, I'm going to cancel this really quick just to look. If we go back here, our namespace is demo project test. I want this to be in the same namespace as this, so it'll be added here. So I'm going to quickly go back to here, and so we want it to actually just be the namespace, which is demo project tests. If we look, this namespace is a macro. We could also, just to be safe, type in demo project tests. The output file is going to be playertest.cs, which is what file it's going to be included in, and our name format for the method is going to be the method name underscore how we did it before, which was returns true, and this kind of just auto-generates some default code in there. So here we go. I'm going to get rid of that. I don't know why I put that there. So here we have our can jump returns true, can jump returns false, and here's our is healthy returns true. It auto-generated this in the correct project, in the correct file, in the correct namespace, in the correct class, and you're able to kind of just generate these unit tests like this. And of course it's failing because we just assert fail here. So let's start by making our new test. We're going to make Bill again, player Bill equals new player, and we're going to give him, I don't know, 10 energy and 10 health. So if he had if he has 5 health, it'll return true. So let's get our result. Equals Bill.isHealthy. This should return true. So let's assert. This time, just to show it off, I'm going to use r equal just for fun. I could do is true, but the expected is true. The actual is the result, and this will work just as well. This is good for, you know, if you're comparing ints or something. And anyway, so now that we have this done, we can see that it is covered by our tests. It's returning true. Here we go. We don't have the path for returning false yet. So let's just really quickly generate public void is healthy returns false. We need to not forget our decorator here, test method, and let's do player. You know what, let's just copy this in here. So let's give Bill 2 health. That should return false. So assert false. There we go. Everything works, everything's good. And so by doing this, we can kind of get our unit tests going. We can have see our past tests here in our test explorer. There are, you know, a bunch of little options in here for searching tests and running things in different orders and activating live unit testing for specific tests, turning live unit testing off for others. It all works pretty smooth and nice and is really clean, and you know, you can see code coverage for specific tests, which is really cool. And it's overall just like a really good unit testing suite for us to use. You get some nice stats here with your code coverage. Anyway, alright, well, that's the end of this video. I hope I was able to teach something that was interesting. Uh, anyway, thanks for watching. Bye.